half in the bag.
I'm Bill S. Preston Esquire. I am Ted Theodore Logan. And together, we are Wild Stallions!
Well, Mike, I'm done boarding up all the doors and windows.
What? What happened now?
Everything. Hey, what are you watching?
Oh, it's the new Bill and Ted movie. Bill and Ted Face the Music.
That's not the new movie. That's the embarrassing Bill and Ted TV series from 1992.
Oh, I was wondering why Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter look so different.
Here, I'll put on the new movie.
Oh, good.
Dude, yeah? The future. Yeah.
Oh my God! Why do Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter look so different?
Well, I mean, it has been 30 years since the last Bill and Ted movie.
What? No, it's been... Oh, I think my watch stopped working.
I've listened to Wild Stallions.
Let's rock!
Bill and Ted Face the Music. They didn't totally f it up.
I'm sorry. What?
That's a hell of an intro, and that's probably an accurate statement. They didn't f it up.
They didn't totally f it up.
It's a Bill and Ted movie.
We talked about in our review, like, you kind of have to have lower expectations. This isn't a Star Wars movie or, you know, some big franchise.
Oh, you could take this movie if this were like a serious science fiction movie, like not even a full on like drama series, but like even up to the level of Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. You could pick this so full of holes.
That's all the Bill and Ted movies.
There is no kind of like internal logic for time travel,
yeah,
for the afterlife, for whatever the hell the problem Bill and Ted need to solve is, which I don't even understand that at all.
Yeah.
But Bill and Ted are goofaballs. They walk around. They're dumb.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like things that would be a detriment to other movies are just sort of a charm of the Bill and Ted movies. This movie, for the most part, has all the same like positive qualities as the other movies and the same negative qualities as the other movies.
Yeah.
It's another Bill and Ted movie. And that, you know, it's an okay movie, and that's sometimes okay is good enough.
Yeah.
Especially right now.
Oh God, this feels so out of place right now. This is, I don't know if the message of everyone, let's all just get along, I don't think that flies in 2020.
It's, you know what, when they call movies escapism, this is the best example of that, because it was so nice to just watch a goofy movie about people saving the earth with positivity. For those 90 minutes, or for those hour and 20 minutes.
That shocked me too. That shocked me too. I noticed the running time at some point. It was only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Standard, well now, you know, when we were young, standard fucking movie length, but now it's like 2 hours and 48 minutes.
I don't want to see a 2.5 hour Bill and Ted movie, and they know that.
I wonder if there's not just stuff that was cut out though.
That's the one thing I noticed about the movie, is a lot of it feels kind of rushed.
Yeah.
It feels rushed, and there's too many subplots. Like, once again, the princesses are completely worthless characters that don't do anything, but they get their own subplot this time for some reason.
It feels like a subplot that has been deleted.
Yes. Every once in a while they show up in the movie and you're like, oh yeah, they're doing something.
Oh, their older selves have kidnapped them for some reason.
Yeah. We won't get into spoilers yet, but there is kind of a revelation of what was happening at the end. It's just like one line of dialogue, just explain away what was happening. It feels so half-assed.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that's out just for me personally about this movie is Keanu Reeves has completely gotten over the hump for me. Here's my history with Keanu Reeves.
Oh, okay.
For like decades, Keanu Reeves was that dumb guy.
He was the whoa dude guy.
He was the whoa dude guy. I would see like Speed in the theater. I saw Speed in the theater. I'm like, I can't buy him as an action hero. He's that dumb guy. I saw The Matrix and I can't buy him as the chosen one. He's that dumb guy. Mm. And now here we finally are. We've had our John Wicks and our Constantines, and we've finally gotten to the point where I watch Bill and Ted Face the Music, and I'm like, why is Keanu Reeves playing this idiot?
See, I watched it, and I was like, why isn't he that dumb guy? Because that's overall, I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
It's complete nonsense, which is fun for a 90-minute movie. Bill and Ted. It's nice to see them back together. It was nice to see Alex Winter again because he's not even an actor anymore.
He's probably the best one in the movie.
Well, that's what I wanted to mention. The unfortunate weakest part of the entire movie, of the Bill and Ted movie, is half of Bill and Ted. Keanu Reeves, I don't know what is going on with him. He looks like he's on like pain meds.
I'm sorry. What?
See, I just assumed, my assumption when I watched it was just that I had finally gotten used to action and drama star Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And I was having a hard time buying him back in his old dumb role, but maybe I can't say he half-assed it because it's not like he's hurting for money and he needed to do the Bill and Ted movie.
Yeah, no, and that's the nice thing about this movie is that it feels so not cynical. So you have the two writers who wrote all the other movies. You have Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves. And they all came back to make this movie. It was something they've been trying to get made for like 10 years, which is rare because so many movies now, it's like 80s nostalgia, dig it back up and make a new movie. But nobody wanted to make this movie. But it was like a passion project of theirs because they all just like each other and they like playing Bill and Ted. So now it took like 10 years to get made. And it's relatively low budget, which we could talk about, some of the visuals in the film. But it feels like Keanu Reeves he's not that guy anymore. He's not the whoa dude guy anymore. You look at Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, or like, do you remember the movie Parenthood?
That is one messed up little dude.
It's the same type of role. It's Keanu Reeves. It's whoa dude Keanu Reeves. And when you watch those movies, you're like, that's him. But he's not that guy anymore, and he hasn't been for a long time.
No, he's the cool dude now.
I'm not just talking about the roles he plays, but when you see him in interviews and stuff, he's so just like kind of stoic and zen-like and calm. And I feel like he's just so far removed from that he can't embrace his inner Ted anymore. I don't think it's in him physically, because he looks like he's struggling to smile the few times that he smiles in this movie, and it's very odd.
I should remove the dude part of that because these days he is just cool.
Yeah. Well, he's the whoa guy because of The Matrix.
I think a lot of people see him as the John Wick guy now.
Now he's John Wick, and that's the other thing is like, nobody needed to make this movie. Like, Alex Winter isn't even an actor anymore. The writers have done other big things, and Keanu Reeves definitely doesn't need to do this because he's got John Wick money.
That's why I can't imagine he just phoned it in.
No, he didn't. I just think he's not that person anymore, and he can't channel that. And he has lots of lines in the movie where I'm picturing him from like the writer's standpoint, where when they were writing it, I can see them picturing Keanu Reeves as Ted saying that line and how he would say that line. But then the way he delivers a lot of those lines in the movie are so different than what you would think.
Party on, dudes!
Party on, dudes.
Like when they first get into the phone booth and they're about to travel through time, he says something like, it's similar to the line in the first movie. He's like, I think we're about to embark on a most excellent adventure.
Bill, my friend? Yes, Ted, my friend. This has been a most excellent adventure.
And he's so like excited and optimistic about it. And this one, it sounds like it's a struggle for him to get the words out.
Bill, my friend.
Yes, Ted, my friend.
I have a feeling things are about to change in a most outstanding way.
And then you have, on the other hand, you have Alex Winter, who's carrying the movie on his fucking back. He looks like he's having a blast.
He hasn't missed a beat.
No, for someone that hasn't acted in like 20 years. Because he's a director now. He makes documentaries and shit. And I think he's done some like animated voiceover work.
Yeah.
But this is his first big acting thing, I think, since his movie Freaked.
See, I haven't been following him. That's the last thing I remember seeing him in, was Freaked.
Yeah, and then he kind of went behind the camera. But the whole dynamic, the Bill and Ted dynamic, is thrown off because you have Alex Winter acting, to be fair, like an older version, which is good that they're not just trying to do their teenage woe dude stuff. They feel like older versions of those characters. Alex Winter does, but Keanu Reeves is like, he can't quite get there.
How's it going, dude?
Hey, dude.
I think maybe if they'd played that up, like the character himself is older now, and Ted is having a hard time being that younger version of himself, but he knows he has to make the song, but he's lost the mojo.
Yeah.
Like, they could have done something like that.
They kind of do. There's a couple moments, like early on, they're in the garage and he tells Bill that he's thinking about selling his guitar. And it's like moments like that kind of work. Because when we talked about, there's outtakes from our Bill and Ted review that are on our Patreon.
Ooh.
Because we have Patreon. And we talk about that. We talk about like how you can't just have them. We compared it to like the Dumb and Dumber sequel. Well, you know, the first one came out in the 90s. There's a Dumb and Dumber sequel a couple years ago. And it's not only unfunny, it's creepy. When you have these people that were acting like imbeciles in their 30s, but now they're like 60, and they act exactly the same. They live in the same place. They're wearing the same clothes. It's not funny. It's pathetic.
As a counterpoint, though, I'm going to throw out Ash from Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Well, he's devolved. He starts in the first Evil Dead movie. He's like just a normal college guy. Yeah. And then he gets dumber and more abrasive as the series goes. He has like the opposite of an arc. So that's for comedic purposes, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you know, I do like that they are older in this. They don't try and just act like, oh, they're still just Bill and Ted. And that's the stuff that worked. Okay, they acknowledge that they're older. They introduce the daughters, who I liked a lot, who are just little Bill and Teds, and they kind of give the movie that kind of youthful energy of the original movies.
Yeah. Who are themselves, they're just doing a Bill and Ted impression, the daughters.
They're doing pretty damn good ones, though, especially Ted's daughter. That actress, I know Bill's daughter is Samara Weaving, who's, I don't know if you saw Ready or Not, that came out last year.
No,
She's good in that. She's been good in everything I've seen her in.
I'm familiar with the other one, who's a character in Netflix's Atypical. It's the dramedy.
Yeah.
She's great in that.
Okay, see, she's the one I wasn't familiar with, so watching this movie, I had no idea who she was.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, she's like the reincarnation of young Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves isn't even dead, but somehow he's been reincarnated because she is like pitch perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
And that idea too of having, because there's a lot of ways you could go with it, where it's like, oh, they have daughters and their daughters are embarrassed by them, and they don't do that. They're just little Bill and Teds, and that's like perfect for the vibe of these movies.
Oh, the cutest thing in the world is that they refer to Bill and Ted, both of them, as dads.
Yeah, this movie perfectly captures that same kind of energy of the other movies.
Yeah. If I'll criticize anything with the daughters, they should have done something just more with them story-wise as it relates to Bill and Ted. Like some kind of arc you can make out of that, like some kind of disconnect, or Bill and Ted are worried about their daughters for this, just some emotional thing that ties up at the end. Because I'm thinking Bill and Ted, they go to the marriage counselor with the princesses.
Yeah.
And Bill and Ted's quest is kind of related to, oh no, we're going to lose our wives.
Yes.
And then the princesses leave the movie. I think the thing that sent them on their journey, it shouldn't have been oh, we're going to lose our wives. It should have been, oh, we're having trouble connecting with our daughters or something. Just so that relationship between them is just more focused on in the movie.
Maybe. I guess it depends on what they did with it. I kind of like that they all are just supportive of each other and love each other, and there's no drama. Because when we talked about the first two movies, that's a big thing with them, is we talk about how, like, especially in the first movie, all those typical elements you would put in like a teen comedy just aren't there. All the stock, like they don't get picked on at school. None of that's there, and that's what kind of makes them special as characters. And so I kind of like that bleeds over into the daughters, where it's just they're not, you know, oh, we got to make sure our daughters turn out better than us. Like we gotta push them to go to college or something like that.
Right,
it's like, no. Their daughters love music, and they are supportive of their daughter's love of music against like Ted's dad's wishes or his opinion of them. He's like, your daughters are going to turn out to be as big of losers as you.
Yeah,
so it's like they're all in it together as like a group.
It's wholesome, and that's pleasant in this day and age. Is what you're getting at?
Yes, I mean that's this whole fucking movie.
How you doing?
Well, you know, dead.
And we're in hell.
But how you doing?
We're good.
I was wondering how they were going to retcon the ending of Bogus Journey, and I was surprised that for the most part they didn't.
No, and I remember, I think it's on the commentary track for Bogus Journey, they talk about that, because there's all those like magazine covers and newspaper headlines, and that was not the writers. That was like in post-production, like whoever did the end titles just added those because they thought it'd be cute and funny.
Oh.
And they were like, this completely fucks up our ideas for the third movie, so we got to figure out how to work this in.
Okay.
So they did what they had to do, and it works fairly well.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially with the idea of like Bill and Ted, you know, in the first movie, they're like 80s hair metal guys. And there's so many of those type of acts that were like huge, playing arenas in the 80s, and now they're like playing, you know, county fairs.
Yeah.
So that rise and quick fall completely works. without it getting too, dour.
Yeah,
Just the right amount of melancholy at the beginning of the movie.
Well, they're also not in like a completely miserable place in their lives when the movie starts either. Like you can go the once again Ash versus Evil Dead. He's living in a trailer route,
Yes.
but no, they got nice homes
Right next to each other.
right next to each other.
Yeah.
They don't look like they're hurting.
Because they're like constantly, the whole idea that's in the trailers that you see in the movie is that they haven't written the song that unites the world yet. And it's like, what do you do if that's your destiny and you're middle-aged now and it still hasn't happened? So they're performing at the wedding and they're doing this like bizarre experimental song with this really pretentious title. They're just like trying anything.
Well, they're utterly desperate.
Yes.
They have been crushed under the weight of expectations that nobody should ever have.
Yeah.
Nobody should ever have somebody walk into their room and just say, "You're going to save the universe someday. Figure it out."
Yeah. And now you still haven't done it. That song, by the way, though, I think that song, it's kind of good. It's all over the place because they're trying all these different instruments, which is funny, but you can't do the joke that they're bad musicians anymore because they're not. So it's like, oh, what do? They try anything. It reminded me of, and maybe it was influenced by, do you know anything about Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys?
No.
In the 60s, he had like a complete mental breakdown and was obsessed with writing like the perfect album. And so he would just like lock himself in a recording studio and try all these different, he'd bring in all these different musicians and try all these different weird sounds as like not instruments, but he would try and use like dogs barking and like Coke cans and just all this crazy shit.
Hyper experimental.
Yeah, he got really experimental because he was just trying to write like the perfect song. So I don't know if this was influenced by that, but it reminded me of it. It feels like it's probably.
And that's how we got Jingle Cats.
I'm sorry. What?
But the universe they were told they were gonna bring together,
Was actually starting to unravel.
yeah, time was folding in on itself.
When is time going on the fritz? Because it seems to be happening every when at once. It's very weird. The crisis.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the idea that all space and time are connected. I don't know.
And we're all connected because music.
Yeah, something.
It's
And the phone booth can also travel to parallel dimensions, I guess.
I don't think it does.
That's what the princesses do.
Oh, they went to it. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they go to alternate realities to find the one where they can be happy with Bill and Ted.
I forgot they were going to different realities because we never follow them on their
We
adventure.
never see that. I don't know if that's something that was like, because the movie does feel overstuffed for the short runtime that it has. So I
Yeah.
don't know if there was more that got cut because of budget reasons or what.
I have to assume there was a whole subplot.
Yeah.
And then they were looking at their budget and they're thinking, well, it's the princesses.
It's almost comical at this point. 3 movies in, it's almost comical how useless the princess characters are. They have the funny scene early on when they're doing couples therapy as a couple.
Yeah.
And there's some funny bits in that. And then, like, that's all you need for the movie. Establish their relationship is on the rocks because they haven't, fulfilled their destiny or whatever, and then get them out of the movie. One of my first big laugh out loud moments was an unintentional laugh. Early on, they performed their song at the wedding, and then Ted's dad is like bitching him out, where he's like, "You didn't travel through time, you didn't go to heaven and hell, blah blah blah."
Bill, Ted, enough of the delusions. You didn't time travel, and you didn't go to heaven and hell.
He's like, "Your daughters are turning out to be big losers too. The only ones in your family that are responsible," or no, he says, because then the princesses walk up, and he's like, "Joanna, Elizabeth, how do you feel to be the only ones responsible in your entire family?"
How do you feel about being the only adults in your families, the only ones with actual jobs?
Let's pack up.
And then they don't even answer, and he turns around and walks away. And then they just don't say anything. I was like, that epitomizes the princess characters. They're completely fucking useless and don't contribute anything.
The movie is a little bit of a mess when it comes to just like the overall what were they trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, I think that they're just trying to cram too much stuff in.
yeah,
Because you have the main plot of them traveling through time to try and find the song. You have the daughter's subplot, which is like a mini reboot of the first movie.
complete reboot of the first
Where
movie.
they're, finding historical, this time they're finding historical famous musicians, which is some fun stuff, but it is basically a remake of the first movie. And then you have the princess's storyline, and then we have, well, it's kind of in there. They show up every once in a while just for Bill and Ted to say, go away again.
But, I mean, just the concept of the Bill and Ted versus themselves, which is kind of their problem. They're fighting themselves because they don't know how to make the song. They kind of are their own enemy, and it's both internal and, because of time travel, also external. They are their own enemies.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
That's your concept.
Yeah.
And that's enough for a movie, but I think they didn't want it to just be another Bill and Ted adventure, you know, kind of spread it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Which would be worse if the other subplots were terrible, but they aren't. Like I said, I like the daughters. They're fun. The part when Jimi Hendrix is jamming out to Mozart is fun.
I like the daughters. I thought their subplot. I like the daughters, but I just thought their subplot was a little weak.
Dude, our dads are totally in trouble.
You should help him out.
Because it was just a complete rehash of the first Bill and Ted movie.
It was.
We're gonna kidnap these historical figures.
No.
Okay.
The guy playing Louis Armstrong was pretty good, though.
Yeah.
He didn't have enough to do, but he was just that right level of, he's like Louis Armstrong, but they cranked it up just enough to be kind of funny. But then the other subplots, we have Rufus's daughter, played by Kristen Schaal, which is weird. I know George Carlin was a comedy person, but he plays his role in those movies pretty straight.
Yeah.
So it's weird to have like a goofy comedy person playing his daughter. But I did like her character's name is Kelly, which is George Carlin's real daughter's name.
I was wondering if they didn't just get his real daughter at first when I first started watching, because I don't know what she looks like.
Yeah, no, but yeah, her name in real life is Kelly. So I was like, oh, that's a nice little tribute to George Carlin, the late, great George Carlin. But we also meet her mom, who is now the great leader in the future. And she decides that maybe they need to kill Bill and Ted instead of let him write a song?
See, okay, this is where it gets into the territory where if you worry about the details and you try to break it down, it completely falls apart.
Sure.
Because everything happened in the past, and they seem to have been really familiar with Bill and Ted in the previous movies. Shouldn't they know exactly what happened?
In this movie, they kind of retcon it where it's like, oh, Rufus kept saying this was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's fine because it's Bill and Ted, but it's a weird subplot in a movie that's already filled with subplots, and it seems to only be there as an excuse to bring in this robot character.
Didn't work for me, the robot character. I got what the joke was.
Well, the joke is he serves the exact same function as the Grim Reaper in Part 2. Starts as an imposing figure that wants to take them to the afterlife, and then gets increasingly more and more silly.
How are we gonna find them, dude?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I don't even know, dude.
I didn't know who that guy was. I looked him up. He's on the show Barry, the HBO series Barry, which I haven't watched. But he's funny. His performance is funny, but it does feel like reheated leftovers from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Also, I want to know, because Bill and Ted, I guess we're full-on spoilers
Sure.
now. They keep traveling further and further forward in time, trying to get the song from their older selves. And eventually, they're like 37 years in the future, and they die. But their daughters died 37 years ago. Have their daughters been in hell 37 years? Because when they meet the daughters in hell, the daughters are acting like they just got there.
That's true. It's all connected, Rich. Space and time are all connected.
Is it just because space and time is breaking down?
It's because space and time is breaking down, Rich.
Okay.
Well, another question is, why do they go to hell? What'd they ever do? Hell is used as more of like a plot convenience than anything else in this, where it's like, it's a place where all of our characters can meet up. Bill and Ted can reunite with Death, and then Death can bring them all back together, up to Earth at the same time in the same place. Which that was actually another big laugh out of me, was when they're in hell and they're about to leave, it cuts to, because earlier we see the robot kill Ted's dad. He vaporizes him with his laser, so his dad's in hell. But then for absolutely no reason, his SWAT van is also in hell because it also got vaporized.
It got vaporized.
That's the kind of like complete nonsense that I wish the movie leaned into more.
The funny part to me was in hell, apparently the souls that die and go to hell, they're just falling into hell constantly.
I like that too, yeah.
And on their way out, the police van just keeps hitting souls, damn souls that are on their way to hell.
Yeah, yeah. You hear them like when they're in the van. You hear them like smacking on the side of it. I don't know if this. I know that the movie, like a lot of the post production took place after kind of the COVID lockdown stuff started to happen. So a lot of it was done remotely. I did notice some weird editing, awkward editing, like the part when they go to the future. I think it's like 5 years in the future when they're in the mansion. And they're like the foppish British versions of themselves, which was fun to see Keanu Reeves try and fail again to do a British accent. He pulled that out from Bram Stoker's Dracula. Didn't work then, it doesn't work now.
I've seen many strange things already. Bloody wolves chasing me through some blue inferno.
Oh God, I forgot he was in that.
Yeah, everybody forgets he was in that. But there's some really weird, like there's a, and this happens sometimes in movies, if there's a super wide shot, and someone's talking, you might notice, since they're so small, it's hard to notice, but like their mouth doesn't match what they're saying.
Yeah.
But this is just like a standard 2-shot.
So unlike those sad open mic blokes from 3 years ago.
We are now finally able to muster some compassion.
And then later in that scene, they're sitting across from each other at that table. The future Bill and Ted, like, towards the end of the shot, he starts to talk, but his dialogue isn't there, and then it cuts to the reverse of contemporary Bill and Ted, and they start talking.
Honestly, I wouldn't have thought we had it in us.
So it's like they just used a take where he started talking, but they didn't use his audio. It was really weird. It was really clunky.
Jay, I've seen Ryan's Babe. It can get a lot worse.
That's true.
I'll have another one, Jim. No more today, Bill. Please escort this gentleman to the door.
Well, speaking of the low budgets, and this isn't necessarily something related to a low budget, but specifically in this case I noticed it. They travel to the future, and I hate in movies when they clearly shot their actors completely in front of a green screen, and then the entire background is like a digital background.
Yeah.
A digital set. And in this movie, they go to the future, and this happens, I noticed this in like Marvel movies too, where their digital set, their set is like an arena-sized location with nothing in it. It's just this barren place that always drives me nuts.
Epic?
But it's not epic. It's boring.
Somebody thinks it's epic?
In this movie, you can chalk it up to the low budget, and they didn't have time to add lots of details and stuff. But it's like they travel to the future. They're walking down this fucking 20-mile-long bridge that has nothing on it on either side. But the phone booth, the original movie phone booth, is there right in the center of the bridge. It's like a display, because then we have like a hologram Rufus come out and be like, "This is the phone booth that I used to find the great ones." And it's like I'm picturing this on like a real set where you have like a hallway with all these different historical artifacts. It's like, okay, that makes sense. But it's just this gigantic empty hallway that leads to a gigantic empty room.
Because even if you're just doing a set that's entirely 3D, it still costs money to have somebody in 3D design all of these different artifacts that are supposed to be in some kind of complicated setting, rather than just, it's a big bridge.
Yeah. I miss cool production design. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, hell looks cool in that movie. Here, hell is boring.
On one hand, technically better, but yes, less interesting.
Yeah, less interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
You see like one cave that kind of looks like a face, I think, and that's like it.
There's some demons flying around and there's some hot rocks.
Yeah.
But they're well-rendered hot rocks. At times when I was watching this, I got a distinct vibe of TV movie.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, because coronavirus has been going on for a while now, and they've probably known that this wasn't going to end up in theaters for a while now. So I wonder if at some point, after the call was made that this is going straight to streaming, if they didn't just, we don't need special effects that fancy.
I think the movie was mostly done before the decision was made to make it direct to streaming.
The effects and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was almost completely done. But I'm sure, I mean, it's all about money. I'm sure they were wagering. They were all looking at the numbers, like, what do we stand to gain if we hold this movie off and release it when theaters reopen? It's probably not going to do very well anyway, so we'll put it on streaming.
Well, plus the risk you run in like a year from now is we're going to have all of next year's movies and all of this year's movies all coming out at once.
Yes.
So they're probably also afraid of just competition.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all, I mean, it's like, you know, Christopher Nolan can tell the studio, no, my movie is going to wait for theaters, because he has that power, and he's a big, his movies are all, it's about the epic of seeing it in the theater, the epicness of seeing it on the big screen. This movie, you don't really need to see it on the big screen.
I'm sorry. What?
You know what this movie needed? Some kind of epilogue.
Yes, well, that's what I wanted to mention. I guess we're well into spoilers now.
Yeah.
This movie just fucking ends.
Because the eternal logic of the problem and everything breaks down so easily, they probably didn't understand what was happening in the movie well enough to write an aftermath.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's, like, this is presumably the last time we will see a Bill and Ted movie. I would guess. I mean, especially now that it's releasing on, it is in some theaters, but it's still mostly VOD. It's probably not going to make a lot of money. If it was just released in a normal year, a theatrical year, it probably still wouldn't make a lot of money because comedies just don't do well.
Yeah.
And this is a weird movie that probably would not make a lot of money anyway. But, so this is presumably the last time we'll see them. You do need some kind of epilogue with Bill and Ted. There's, I don't know if you stayed till after the credits. There's a post-credit scene with them as elderly Bill and Ted. Even if that was the last scene of the movie, I would be okay with that.
You needed to see Bill and Ted and their daughters, Bill and Ted, on stage performing at some kind of higher venue concert or something.
No, you gotta go small, because that ending is a big concert.
Yeah.
That's the epic conclusion. So then you have something more personal, like, yeah, maybe they're all hanging out in the garage or something, which they're in the garage at the beginning of the movie, they're in the garage at the beginning of Excellent Adventure, so it goes full circle, something like that.
Yeah.
Them just all the family hanging out, them realizing how much they appreciate their family, something cute and heartwarming that wraps up Bill and Ted.
There's no wrap-up, Jay.
There's no wrap-up. They're just like, we're done, we're out.
Because they were planning endless sequels with the daughters, Jay. I don't know that ever would have happened even without coronavirus, but I think there was a thought somewhere, well, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I like them in this movie. I don't know if I would like a whole movie about them. I just don't think it would work. Them as like an extension of Bill and Ted is funny, that they're exactly the same as them. But them in their own movie, it would just feel like a cheap knockoff of Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
Creatively, I think it was a wise decision to make them daughters, because obviously at the end of Bogus Journey, they're like, this is little Ted, this is little Bill. They cover that up with like one line of dialogue in this, or it's like, that was their cute nickname.
I actually think it was a little bit smart, because if it was just teenage boys who were just like Bill and Ted, that would have been too much like Bill and Ted.
Yes, that's what I say. Like, creatively, that was the wise decision. It works for this movie. And then also you have like Rufus's daughter, so there's this whole father-daughter thing going on. I did think it was weird at the very end when they save the world with their music and it cuts back to the future and we see Rufus's wife, the great leader.
Your father would be so proud of you.
Where she's like, your father would have been proud. It's like, she should get some comeuppance for fucking killing all these people. What is this?
Did not get an apology for trying to murder Bill and Ted.
Not trying, she did. Murdered Bill and Ted, murdered their daughters.
That's true.
Murdered Louis Armstrong and Jimi Hendrix. She murdered over a dozen people.
Why did the time disruptions disproportionately affect Babe Ruth? Babe Ruth and George Washington keep popping into different places, more so than other people.
Because then you don't have to hire more actors because you're on a low budget.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's just George Washington keeps showing up.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.
So we've talked about how this movie is a sloppy mess, but it's still kind of fun.
Yeah, because when you go to Bill and Ted, you go to see Bill and Ted be goofballs.
Yes.
And you're not going for an intricately laid out plot that makes sense. It'd be nice if it did.
It'd be nice if it did.
It'd be nice if it did.
Yeah.
But Bogus Journey is still the best Bill and Ted movie.
Yes, yes.
I rewatched all of them like in a row because of this. And
well, I know you did because we did our review on
That's true because I am Mike. And that movie's so fucking good. A lot. I rewatching them all. I was kind of surprised how much. I always knew Bogus Journey was my favorite. Kind of surprised me how much more I like Bogus Journey than Excellent Adventure.
Well, there's a lot of craft put into it as far as the filmmaking goes, and the ideas are just so creative.
Yeah.
And this movie, It's a little weirder than Excellent Adventure, but it still feels like a watered-down Bogus Journey.
Bogus Journey was smart enough to realize that, like, it's not a time travel series.
Yeah.
It's a series about these two dumb but good-natured guys who go on fantastical adventures.
Adventures that these type of characters should not be going on.
Yeah.
Because these are goofy side characters in a typical teen movie.
And then when they got to Face the Music, it was like, well, geez, did we make a time travel movie or a supernatural afterlife movie? We'll just do both.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an amalgam of the first two movies.
I was expecting, like hearing about this movie and watching the trailers, what I expected is that the twists would be they're not time traveling. Bill and Ted are going to alternate universes.
That's what I thought it was going to be too. When you see them in prison and stuff,
where they run into we kind of got that, but it's not really alternate versions. It's just their future selves keep degrading.
Right.
But I expected them to be running around with 5 different copies of Bill and Ted all together.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird movie. It feels like a lot of it is hampered by the low budget and also too many subplots.
It's fine. I think it probably could have been better, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's a Bill and Ted send-off, even though it really doesn't have a proper Bill and Ted send-off because we needed to cut back to them at the end in the aftermath.
Yes.
It's fine.
We needed an epilogue scene and we didn't get it.
Yeah.
So now it just stops. It's like the ending of American Werewolf in London. We're just done. We're out.
Look, American Werewolf in London just needed one scene. That's all that movie needed, the transformation scene. Ooh, that's a cool scene, and everyone's going to remember American Werewolf in London forever. That's all that movie needed.
See, that's what you could do with this movie. Because the thing that makes Bogus Journey so great is that it's a sequel to a time travel movie that isn't about time travel. They go in a completely different direction. And this movie needed to go in another different direction.
Yes.
And so Bill and Ted as werewolves.
Oh, God.
That's what you need. Something completely out of left field. That's what you need to do. Bill and Ted 4. Let's just make it ourselves.
We have to wait until coronavirus is over.
Oh.
Ow. It's not over yet.
Do you hear that cricket?
Yeah, I do. Does that mean our joke didn't land?
I've been hearing it for this entire discussion, so I think it means that none of our jokes landed.
Oh, no. Well, Jay, now that we're done talking about Bill and Ted Face the Music, what do you want to do now? I think we're going to be stuck in this VCR repair shop for a long time. Because of coronavirus!
I don't know. If we got nothing but time, you want to just watch Bill and Ted Face the Music again?
Sure, why not?
How's it going, dude? Things have definitely been better. We totally can't rehearse. And our Wild Stallions banner has been most unceremoniously reduced.
No way.
Yes way. We're completely stumped, Rufus. Totally at odds with this dilemma.
Be excellent. Party on.
Mike, this is the embarrassing failed Bill and Ted TV series from 1992 again.
Does it matter?
Oh, Mike, nothing matters anymore.